Hey everybody, it's Steve back again for the Independent Investors Association. A few basic definitions that you need to know about off-market investor-based real estate. Again, the Independent Investors Association is not a membership, or that's correct, we are a membership. We are not a training program. We are not a guru. We are not your partner. We're not your JV. We are a certification organization trying to help wholesalers do a better job and build a better business while giving the powers that be less reason to question the industry of wholesaling if people are certified members of our organization. We're an ethics organization. Think of the education really done for. We're looking to do the same thing for off-market. So what you're hearing here is what we're teaching. What you're hearing here is part of our certification process. We're not promising that it's all correct. We're promising it's a better standard than what most wholesalers are doing. If you pass our tests and you take our certifications and you become a member, remember, it's free for a while. We're not charging right now. Jump on it. Let's get this done. And we will work together to make country and the communities more comfortable with wholesalers. So what is off-market and non-traditional real estate, i.e. wholesaling? Everyone has a different definition. For our purposes, it's something that's not listed by a realtor, something that's not with a real estate agent or realtor. They're different. Flex option agreements are the wrong way. Assignable contracts are the right way. Daisy chains are the wrong way. Daisy chains are, gee, Billy Bob told me he has contract on this property, so I'm going to help him sell it. Most states are going to say that's the only real estate without a license because you have no equitable interest. So what are you talking about? Why are you advertising this property? Flex option agreement, gee, I'll try to sell it for you if I can. Those are pretty much a violation as well in most states. Having an equitable interest, a contract with consideration, also known as deposit in most states, filed, written, signed by everyone. Everyone's agreed to the terms and the contingencies. That's the way we wholesale. Is wholesaling illegal? Depends on how it's done. It can be. Wholesalers can break the law. In most states, it's not illegal per se. Assignable contracts are typically still allowed, but most states, you need to know your community. If it's done ethically, it can actually be helpful. A seller needs to sell quickly, quicker than a real estate agent can help them with. So boom, that's where we come into the equation. That's how we help them. Agents and brokers sell real estate, whole contract assignments. Agents and brokers sell real estate, wholesalers sell contract assignments. I'm not advertising as a broker, I'm advertising by 34 Rowland Street, Wilkes-Barre, because I'm simply the consignment store. I'm the marketing company. As a wholesaler, I'm saying, please buy my contract on 123 Main Street. If you buy my contract, you have the right to buy 123 Main Street. Wholesaling is a necessary part for real estate investors because some sellers can't wait for the listing, sale, closing, inspection process. They need to get out fast. Something needs to happen faster. Some buyers need more creative opportunities than are available the other way. High-value sellers need creative things such as subject to installment sales that sometimes just don't happen very well in the MLS environment, in the listed licensed agent environment. There are people that it works for, and if done right, we're fine with it. Can you do it as a licensee? In Pennsylvania, yes. I'm a broker and I'm a wholesaler. I can do both. Always make sure you disclose to sellers what your license status is and if you have any other involvement in the ownership of the property, i.e., I'm selling my wife's property. You should know that my wife is the seller. Therefore, I have a little bit of an insider knowledge about the deal. You always want to be clear with all parties. And you can't list a wholesale contract. They signed a wholesale contract with you to sell their property. You can't, in most states, then come to a broker and say, hey, I'd like to put this on the MLS because you want the deeded owner. There are states where novation is possible. We are not one of them. Can I buy, sell from wholesalers if I'm an agent? Most cases, yes, but most agents aren't going to let a wholesaler sign a contract with their seller. I know I'm not, because I'm not signing with a buyer. I'm signing with someone who hopes to find money, not somebody who has money and is ready to spend it. If you're representing a buyer as a wholesaler, there's some definitely gray areas there, but it's possible in many states. But just realize a licensed broker can't pay you unless you're licensed, at least not in Pennsylvania. So getting paid might get interesting if you're part of the brokerage or part of a brokerage. So your state laws are going to impact that. Is it doable? Yeah. Is it advised? I've done it a few times, but it's not the greatest way to play. Again, as an agent, you have to be careful what your laws are if you're licensed. So when you cross wholesaling and licensed activities, it definitely becomes a gray area. So a wholesale transaction, seller is motivated to sell for fast. I, as a wholesaler, put that property under contract. Investor, that's the wholesaler, approaches the seller, makes the deal to buy the house. Often, and this is the unethical part, without the ability or willingness to actually close on the deal if stuff happens. That's where we come in as the Independent Investor Association. We don't want you doing that. If you aren't actually ready to execute per the terms of your contract, don't do it. If you don't have the money and you need to say, hey, I need to find the money, make sure that's in your agreement. Don't go in and lie to somebody and say something's going to happen and then not have it happen. And or assigns is in your contract. So all my contract will be whatever company it is and or assigns, meaning I have the right to change the name on the deal anytime before closing that I want. This is how I assign the properties. This is how I make money as a wholesaler. But nothing else in the contract will change, just the name. Usually you explain that to a seller, they don't care what the name is, they care how big their check is. Physical inspection, typically part of your thing. Title, typically part of your contract. And a small deposit. Depends on the state law. Some states don't require money deposit, but something that shows consideration has been received for the contract. Parties have to agree to that. It has to be legal in your community. Investor will send representatives, investors, contractors, where they're buyers. If a buyer is found who's going to pay enough over the price, then the deal is made. Example, I have a property under contract for $42,000. I sent a bunch of, and that's and or assigns, my company and or assigns. We put down money on deposit, we're set, we're going. Great, we bring 5 or 6 people there. Somebody offers me $52,000. Terrific, I'm going to make 10 grand. I assign an assignment contract, everything heads to closing. I get paid at closing. Nobody touches money before closing except the escrow company. That's how wholesaling works. A side is the seller, B side is the wholesaler, C side is the buyer. A has a contract with B. B makes a contract with C to take over B's contract with A. And we go from there. At closing, wholesaler gets paid. That's the distinctly important part of this equation, is at closing, the seller and the wholesaler and everyone gets paid. Nobody gets paid before closing. There's 2 ways to do it. There's assignment and double close. Assignment is what I described earlier. I have the contract 42. The assignment fee is $10,000. Therefore, Bob is bringing 52, and the deal is closing once. The deed is going from the seller to the buyer, and I'm just getting a check in the middle, having coordinated the deal, we'll say, consulting, whatever. Way 2 is a double close. That means, and I do them in cases where my spread is bigger than I think somebody might be comfortable with. That means that I close on it, let's say at 10 a.m. on whatever the day is. And at 11 a.m., the buyer closes on it. So technically, the seller doesn't know who the buyer is. Sees nothing about what I'm making from the buyer, nothing. Same thing, the buyer doesn't see it. I've paid the seller at 10 a.m. So the buyer doesn't need to know what I've got it from the seller for. The buyer doesn't need to know who the seller is because I'm the seller now. I'm legally in control of the property. You may need to borrow money to pull this off, but that's a double close. Close 1, close 2. Usually same day, plus or minus. There are funders that can provide money for those if you need the money and you don't have it. Closing without disclosures is wrong. You need to have a disclosure from the seller and that you've verified of anything in this property. Lead disclosure, physical disclosure, whatever your state requires. EPA, houses built before 78, you've got to have a lead disclosure. There's a special form for it, a pamphlet that says lead is bad for you to eat the walls, and you have to include those. These are laws. You are not above them because you decided you're a wholesaler or a non-traditional. We're not. The laws don't, you're not above the law. The wrong way is a flex option, a one-page document that says, Mr. Seller, I'm going to try to sell your house, but if I can't, I won't. No, realtors and real estate agents are allowed to do that. Wholesalers are not. Verbal permission or assumed permission. Nope. I had an experience where I got a call. I listed a property as a wholesaler before I was licensed. Got a call from a bankruptcy attorney. Okay, let's go. Next day, I got a call from another bankruptcy attorney saying I'm violating the law because we don't have a signed agreement. True, I didn't. What I had was an email from his business partner. So I solved the problem, but I dropped the listing. I dropped the deal because I didn't follow the right documents of getting everything signed by the person in charge of the property, i.e. the seller. You can't just take MLS listings and remarket them. If you have it under contract and the listing agent and the client has signed and it's allowing you to do or signs or a resale, yeah, we can talk about that. But other than that, no, you can't do it. Should real estate agents fear wholesaler? No. But you should urge your clients caution if you're approached by a wholesaler. Explain to them how much of it can go wrong, and very often they don't have the money to do the deal. Wholesale math differs from agent math because in agent math, I'm saying, well, I think I can sell this house for you for $60,000. Wholesalers coming in saying, well, I could probably sell this house for $60,000 after I buy it, after I fix it, after I do this to it, that to it, that to it. The agent is giving the best version of what they think they can sell the property for, and the seller can bring the price down wherever they want. The wholesaler is saying, Mr. Seller, I promise to pay you this. So you want to make sure you're right on your numbers. Wholesaling is all about net income, not gross. What's the least a seller will take, what's the most a buyer will pay, and we're in the middle. As long as it's done ethically and clearly, we're in good shape. When negotiating with a wholesale seller, what you have as an advantage is you're saying, I'm not going to charge you a realtor commission. I'm not going to make you pay the transfer tax. I'm not going to make you pay deed prep. I'm offering you $35,000 as long as title is clear. Is typically the offer. It can be whatever you want, but that's typically the play. We're telling them there's no commissions. We're telling them there's very limited showings. And we have to stick to what we tell them. So don't overstep your bounds. If you're not sure, find a joint venture partner to help you. 4 sample deals. The Independent Investors Association has 4 examples that we will share with you in the next video, and you can help pick which ones you think are ethical and why.